Okay, for this week's YouTube chat, I'd like to take a first look ahead to the 2025 Lions Tour. As you probably know, the hybrid side are heading for Australia next July, and it's never too early to start harping on potential selection. So to get the ball rolling, we're going to put aside discussions on bolters and backups, and first we're going to look at some bankers. Which players from the Four Nations seem certain to start the Test series? Starting with yourself, Jay.
Yeah, I think there's probably not too many that I would call totally nailed on, but I mean, if I was Andy Farrell now, just taking out his bio, I think the first name I'm putting down on the sheet is Jameson Gibson Park. I think there's, you know, I think he's, in terms of positionally, I think he's easily the forerunner of I hate saying it, the home nations, but yeah, it's the term. Everyone else has, close contemporaries, but I don't think that's the case for Jameson Gibson Park in terms of the level of impact, the level of leadership of we've seen in Leinster recently that he can bring to a team. So for me, I think Jameson Gibson Park is first name on the sheet. There's probably a slot open for a reliable second there, which we won't talk about. But I mean, for me, yes, absolutely. I think nailed on. Injuries aside, and we don't knock on wood, whatever. But absolutely, Jameson Gibson Park. Then I think Andy Porter will probably be nailed on. I don't think there's any other loose head in the world, or probably, well, yeah, heck, the world, that offers what he offers. I know he gets an awful lot of flack for his scrummaging. I think that's improving. I think some of it's an optics thing, but his work around the park, his work at the breakdown, his engine, going, 150 minutes in some games or whatever it is, can be worrying for such fans who want to see him get a full career. But I mean, he's well able to do 80 minutes at an incredible workload. So I think Andy Porter is there. And then I think I'm fully expecting to see Itoje named as a starting lock. For me, I think tales of his demise were greatly exaggerated, and we've seen on that New Zealand tour. I think we could see that Maro Itoje can be every bit the bastard that got him to where he was. He was fantastic on that tour. He was kind of the new and up and coming player in the last tour. He was carrying the stuffed line and stuff, but he was brought into the kind of leadership group on the last tour. So he's been there, he's done that. So yeah, I think those three guys are definitely. I'd be massively shocked not to see them in a starting 15.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd have a lot of options at all the positions, but I mean, you do have to. Your starting point has to be the players that you kind of know are dominant in their positions, and like you say, they can offer. You have to consider leadership as well and previous experience on previous tours and that as well. I mean, you're absolutely right about Gibson Park. I mean, he's kind of head and shoulders above pretty much anything that's there. And then once you have him there, you're talking about a certain style of play. You're not necessarily talking about necessarily exactly the way Ireland play, even though Farrell is going to be the coach, but it's you're looking for a high tempo kind of game. And then it's almost as if it's not totally crucial who you have at 10, in the sense that Gibson Park is going to be the starting point for everything. It's going to be making it that much easier for whoever is playing at half. So it's a critical place to start, and he's definitely the guy to do that. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with any of those choices. I think we'll see Caelan at 8. In the spine of the team. I, depending on eligibility criteria, I think we see Jack Willis in that team as well. And if he's not, sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, we know how good he is.
Yeah, he is very good. It's the kind of player you hate having in the opposition, but you'd love having in your own team.
The only ones who don't know how good he is are the England selectors for some reason.
Well, there you go. I like the look of that kid, Faye Wabozo. I think he's one to keep an eye on. I'm not saying he's going to be in the Test team by any stretch of the imagination, but he's definitely going to be in the conversation. The English are going to want to have Marcus Smith in at 10. I wouldn't have Marcus Smith in at 10. I think that's down to Finn. I think Finn's going to be there at 10. To be honest, I don't see anybody else. Yeah, it's going to be a toss-up between Duan van der Merwe on the wing. And again, it's horses for courses, isn't it? So depending on what you want, if you want power on the side, you go for that. If you want creativity and you want, you got Mac Hansen there as well. You've got other players who can fit that particular bill. But in terms of people who I think will be in that team, depending on fitness, the only other one I would add is Dan Sheehan. To be honest, and that's not that's not just an Ireland bias, but I think that in terms of the spine, you're not going to want to differ. If you're going to go for Jamo at 9, you're not going to want to differ a great deal from the Ireland spine. To be perfectly honest, the rest, if that is the thought process, then they will have to fit in with that mold. The only caveat I would throw in the air is that how much of a test is this tour going to be, given the opposition? It's going to have to be a complete renaissance of Lazarus type for this not to be is it 3 tests for this not to be an absolute bloody walkover for whichever team the Lions put out, to be honest, which is sad to see, to be honest, but hey, that's where Australia are at the present moment in time. So anyway, that's just my tuppence halfpenny thoughts on the Lions.
Particularly given if it was Andy's first crack at this whole Lions thing, in terms of gathering a mishmash of lads to get them to gel, to run through walls for him, you would say that maybe that's Joe's in, but that's not the case. This is Andy Farrell's bag. This is like getting a group of lads to go out and play and work together. I mean, you've the impact he's had in the Ireland camp, the messaging we get from the Ireland camp in terms of how it's totally different and better than anything they've ever been before for these lads who have played under, everyone under the sun. I'd agree. It certainly doesn't look from the offset that it could be a massively competitive tour.
No, you fear for the results. I mean, there's for the past 2 or 3 Lions tours, there's been questions of its existence at all. People have been wondering, does it really have a place still in the calendar? We have that comes up every 4 years. It'll come up again now. But if you've got 3 blowouts next year, it'll really come into focus. I mean, I know it would be a different story but 4 years down the line against South Africa, New Zealand and stuff, but they're actually talking about their own tours with each other now, down the line and stuff as well. So we don't know how that's going to go, but the Lions, I suppose you got the tradition, and it's the whole being selected first thing as well. And that's the first part of it, the honor of the being called in, getting the photos taken and the jerseys, and before they've even gotten on a plane. It's the whole, who's going to be the captain. We didn't even touch on the captain, but some people are talking about it. Toje might be a good shout for that. You see that a lot of people will listen to the names we've been saying, and they might just go, "Oh, they're just picking Leinster lads and whatever." But it's the reality of what the game is like at the time as well. I'm thinking back to 2009. We've got Munster coming to Croke Park pretty soon. That famous game back in 2009 was one aspect of that was that the Lions squad had just been named, and there was a heavy Munster presence because Munster had the bulk of the Irish team at the time. They had their 2 stars, they had all that. And, some say that was part of maybe a bit of their hubris on that day as well, because they had that extra bounce of the Lions selections. And now it's kind of, that's obviously the other way. We're talking about a lot of Leinster players. And I think it's a reasonable strategy when you're trying to pick a 15 at the moment. you're kind of, because you know Andy Farrell's the coach as well, you're kind of saying, okay, well, put the Ireland team there first, but then say, well, listen, who doesn't make it, and where do the other nations have a better player? I think for Scotland, I think Finn Russell is the good in for them into the team. I'm not so sure about Duhan. What could happen is he could score another 20 tries against England, and then he'll be back in the running again. But I think Finn Russell at 10 and possibly Tuapolatu at 12. The two of them together would be a good mix, a good fit for the side. Yeah. So you're looking at those, you're looking at positions where, you know, it's a decent strategy. Now, when it comes to a Welsh player, I don't know. That's another conversation. I think if I was to pick one Welsh player, if
the only one.
Yeah, if you were to pick one Welsh player that I think might have a chance of getting a number from 1 to 15, he's not even playing rugby anymore. He's gone over to the USA, and he's making his way over there, and fair play to him. But I think Rhys Salmon might have had a shot if he was still playing rugby. But you know, it's interesting conversation for sure. Like you say, the results, it doesn't look good now. Obviously, now Joe Schmidt he's very capable. He could turn things around, but he's got a lot of work to do. He's got his players through another Super Rugby season before then, and maybe, you know, work on his choices, maybe get another couple of new players in time and have them ready. But it's definitely not going to be easy. But when it comes to players, yeah, you picked some great names there: Sheehan, Gibson Park, Porter, Willis. I think I'd love to see him there. I mean, I love Josh as a 7 as well, and is perfectly capable as well. But I think this is another case. I think Willis deserves a shot. I think if England aren't going to pick him, fine. But you see what he's doing for Toulouse, and he's the form 7, and he's got silverware. He's getting player of the matches this week and that and whatever, and he's putting his hand up. And if Borthwick isn't gonna call him, maybe Farrell can. And I'd almost, as much as I love Josh to be there, I'd almost want Willis to get it, just to show how he's been missed, But no, there's a lot of interesting names there. And like I say, it's only September now as we're talking. So down the line, there'll be more matches and more players coming in and out of the mix, and maybe injuries as well. Hopefully not, but it's the reality of rugby. So we'll be coming back to this subject every 3 or 4 weeks, and seeing where we stand, and maybe starting to look at bolters or who might make the tour, and be backup kind of players and stuff. So there's plenty to harp on there. But this has been a decent start. So thanks, lads, for that.